Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Gospel of Comics, the Sunday edition. I'm your host, Church of Failure, and with me, as always, is the co-host Eric McCartney. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am having probably the most annoying day I've had since we started doing this show. Between Google and YouTube taking a massive shit on everything earlier today and making it impossible for me to get the clips I wanted to do this show, um, you know, doing fine, doing peachy, wonderful. No, for those of you who are
So we're gonna turn this show into the.
what?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say for those.
I was gonna
of you,
say, so we're gonna turn the show into the Google I Hate Google episode.
Yes, absolutely, on the YouTube platform, just to see how quickly we can get banned, of course. No, for those of you listening on the replay and have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, Google went down somewhere in between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. today in spots, and a lot of people theorized that it was the Google Cloud server because it was not only like Gmail business accounts, but it was YouTube, Snapchat, Discord, Uber apparently went down for a while. Several internet stores went down. So I have no idea if this is even actually streaming. It says it is.
It looks like it is.
Yeah, it says it is, but I don't know that I trust it.
I mean,
Anyway,
I have it pulled up. So
well, anyway, today we decided, since our guest had to reschedule with us, we were going to do a pick a publisher, and the next one on the list ended up being Alterna Comics. So we are looking at 5 different issue ones from Alterna of 2018-2019 series, and then after we get through those, we will kind of go over the release schedule for the month of June for anybody interested in checking out Alterna Comics. So basically, what we did is we pulled 5 titles for Alterna. Actual Roger, which I believe is an E for Everyone comic. Unit 44, which is an everyone or teen comic, from my opinion. I didn't see it on the cover, and usually we downloaded these from Comixology, and that'll be. Should I go ahead and get that rant out of the way? Should we go ahead and make that rant?
yeah, you might as well off on the top.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Comixology used to have a desktop app that you were able to like load your comics into, and I could do a window capture of, so that I could actually show you some of the interiors of these books. Which is my plan. Obviously, I wasn't going to show the entire book. I never do. But Comixology also has the option to download DRM free copies of certain books. Well, of course, the books that I bought were not available to download. There is no desktop app that I can do a screen cap of. Screen capping my browser eats up entirely too much memory on my rig right now, so that's out of the question. As well as a giant pain in the ass, and look at all those tabs. But um, I was going through and I was trying to figure out a way that I could show you guys some of these panels, and that's when I realized that Google had just taken a massive dump on the internet. And that's when I realized that we were entirely too dependent on Google as a society, because like 4 things that I was trying to do for this show depend on Google. I couldn't set up the live stream until like 8 o'clock. I couldn't actually transfer images for screenshots from my iPad to my Google Drive because Google Drive kept timing out. It's just been a massive clusterfuck, and Comixology is a piece of garbage. It is nowhere near as awesome as it was when it first came out. It just feels like it honestly feels like I paid for comic books that don't belong to me. I understand the issue of piracy and whatnot, but if I pay money for something and it's not explicitly written like on that purchase page, not in a toss. I don't want to see it in a freaking toss. But if it's not written on the purchase page that you are buying a license to read this book and you can't do whatever you want to with it, then when I buy something, it should be mine. Minor gripe there, I know, but I think a lot of people feel the same way, and we had the same issue with DRM as far as CDs and music and movies went in the industry. And as much of a hit as the comics industry is taking right now, I think it's very irresponsible of Comixology to take this approach to make your comics literally hard to access. Because the web reader is shit. It's just pure shit. Um, I don't know what else to say about it. From what I did, like what I did see about the DRM free downloads, apparently it is usually only Image Comics that works for. So why even have it? I mean, there are hundreds of publishers out there. I know we always talk about the big ones, but there are hundreds of publishing houses, past, present, and future. And if only one of them is offering downloads, like why would you not just say you can download your Image comics that you buy? But I digress. Um, this has no bearing on the review of the actual comics themselves. The comics themselves were fantastic. Some of them weren't our cup of tea because of the age group and the age range I think they were written for. But nonetheless, we'll get into the actual reviews here in a minute. Uh, anyway, what else should I what else should I get out of the way before we jump into this mess of a show that we've already started?
I mean, do you want to rant about tree hugging hippies while you're at
I mean, I can. How much time do we have?
it? Well, it's a 2-hour show, so.
Well, looks like I've got about an hour and 50 minutes. Buckle in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just kidding. No, it just everything that could have annoyed me today has annoyed me today, and I felt like getting a little bit of that out because honestly, if you're going to be just the massive tech giant that Google is, you better have redundancies to keep stupid shit like today from happening. Like if you don't, all it did is just explain to people that we just rely entirely too much on Google. And if you're just going to falter and half of the internet's going to go down, that's going to make people look real long and hard about why they're working with you. I know it's ironic saying that on a platform that's owned by Google, but anyway, we picked 5 titles from Alterna. Actual Roger, Unit 44, Midnight Mystery, Wicked and Righteous, and Blood Realm Volume 2. Wicked and Righteous Exodus, actually. I believe this is the second volume of this particular story. So, I guess we'll just go ahead and jump in and start with Actual Roger. So, if you want to go ahead and get that queued up so we can kind of go through it. I don't really think I need a screen share on this particular episode because it's only going to be the cover on the screen. But let's go ahead and get that queued up and go through it. So we have picked our favorite titles out of these, and we agree on 2 of them. Well, actually, I think we agree on our top 3, but I think the order is a little different. So, Actual Roger is a 5-issue limited miniseries, and it revolves around. You okay there, Chief?
I tried to mute it. Yep, I tried to mute the mic before it hit, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, we'll forgive you this time. But Actual Roger is based around a kid named Roger Beeman, who the little text at the top of the comic before you actually get into it says, "Forced to be a sidekick to a superhero who doesn't want him around, Roger Beeman tries to make the best out of a very weird situation. Alterna Comic presents Actual Roger in Cosmic Flukes." Uh, the words and art are Hank Tucker. Letterer is Wes Loker. I guess Hank Tucker wrote and drew this comic, so that's interesting. You don't get that a lot.
Hmm.
I could be wrong on that, but that's what the intro page is telling me. So we'll look at that when we get through it. I'll pull up the wiki and make sure I'm correct on there. But on the cover here, you can see some of the characters involved in the story, some of which we did not meet. Although this cover is a bit of a spoiler because well, the uh, the guy pulling his face off, we didn't actually see that happen in this book. I have no idea who the 8 ball guy is. So, but
Or the giant whale with the whole beard.
no, that's Renfamous. You know, didn't she say she was making her comic book debut this year? That's definitely Renfamous. It's good to see she's
Yeah,
getting.
I see the resemblance.
Yeah. Um, anyway, the book opens up, and you know, there's kind of a splash page where you see the giant. You do see the giant whale. The first page.
Well, I mean, really introduced to the giant whale.
So he says that he's gonna tell us all how it got started, and then we flash back to the cover of a comic book for Magnanimo, the superhero of Monopolum. So and he's throwing his comic books away because he's not into comics anymore, and he's gonna be a basketball player, a Laker, exact.
Because anybody can be a Laker.
That is correct. Um, so he's going out to quote unquote shoot some hoops, and he is stopped by his buddy Clay, who is pictured on the cover here in the shirt that says Clay, and eventually bullied into playing superhero. And while he's playing superhero, um, one second, thought I was gonna sneeze. But while they're playing superhero, a small meteor, like golf ball sized, flies into the flower garden of Clay's mother, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Well, one of the leaves that it touched sticks itself to Roger's shirt, and then Clay proceeds to eat all of the dirt surrounding the comet and the comet itself, I believe. So, with that, later on in the day, it's announced that Magnanimo is going to be looking for a sidekick, and Roger is slightly interested in that. So he pushes himself up off the floor where he's watching TV, and he just kind of keeps going up, realizing that he can fly about a foot and a half off the ground. Which, I mean, for a kid who has just given up liking superheroes, that's got to be awesome, but not very practical, which is brought up later in the book.
No,
However,
but fly a foot and a half off the ground.
what? What was that?
Not practical, but can you fly? Mike, can you hear me?
You're roboting a little bit. But I think I caught the gist of it.
Ah, jeez.
I would like to fly a foot and a half off the ground if it was possible, just so I wouldn't have to walk anymore, and you know, could just be
Yeah,
lazy
exactly.
more often. Because that's the goal in life, right? Just to be as lazy as humanly possible. I mean, that's what most people want, I think. But
Right.
anyway, his parents start to freak out, and it eventually gets around to the government that this kid has the ability to fly a foot and a half off the ground. So they send in the choppers and the special agents, and those are the two gentlemen in suits to the, I guess, cover left of the Magnanimo character, right in front of the 8 ball guy with the top hat, or girl. I mean, I can't really tell, but based on the
Yeah. Did
contour
you
of it,
just assume that 8 ball's gender?
I did. I apologize. I'll go take my 30 lashes now, but. No, these two gentlemen explain that there is a training camp and a whole setup. Hold on one second. I actually have to sneeze. Go ahead and take over for a minute.
All right. So yeah, they explain that there's a whole government program for basically training superheroes where they're put with a older experienced hero, and his parents are even given a catalog to order him a
A super
government
suit,
approved costume.
right? Um, and one of the funny thing is, well, first off, let's kind of backtrack a little bit. There is a mention of this kid asking the older lady that is Clay's parent or guardian or whomever, asking her what autistic means because he heard her
Oh.
talking over the phone about it. I thought that was an interesting choice. So it kind of makes me question: is this an E for everyone or a T for teen book? But either way, I mean, I think it would kind of fly over a kid's head. He might ask his parents what it means, but it's not like a dirty word or anything. Now, we kind of read through most of these in a little bit of a hurry trying to get everything taken care of, but I don't remember any direct swear words in this book. Did you?
No.
If I see one, I will definitely correct myself, but I think that's kind of the mark that I'm using to call this an all issues book. However, it was from the director of the Tick animated series, so it could be more of a T for teen thing now that I'm thinking about it. Either way,
There is smoking.
there is smoking, and that's something else I was gonna point out. There's smoking in a couple of these books, which is fine. I mean, I have no problem with it. I don't think anybody should. It just kind of brings me back to the. I'll get into this after we get through the reviews. Let's actually see if we can make it through the reviews without me going off on 1,500 tangents. Oh.
All right.
But the government comes and looks for him, and then his friend Clay like oozes through the window as a massive lump of clay.
Well,
And
you're skipping a part.
oh
His
yeah,
super suit comes,
right. His
and he
government
hates it.
yeah, his government approved super suit comes in, and he's like, well, I can see why Magnanimo wears one of these, but you know, me who's nothing but skin and bones, this just looks horrible. So his mother just explains that he can wear his jersey and shorts and his cape that he's already had instead of wearing the super suit. So immediately, as soon as he gets this garish fucking outfit, he just takes it off and trades it in for his normal superhero outfit that he plays in. But just before he goes off to become a happy accident, as they call it. They say all of these things are happy accidents, but some of them can be unhappy accidents. And Clay was apparently eavesdropping on that conversation because he sneaks into Roger's room and demands that Roger tell the agents about him and offers to basically come work with them or whatever. But he needs Roger to do it so that he doesn't have to reveal his secret identity to anyone else. It's very, very interesting, kind of ploy there. Like, I can't tell if Clay is
And
supposed to eventually be a good guy or a bad guy because it seems
I
like
think he's going to be a bad guy.
it seems like it's shaping up that he's going to be an antagonist to this whole thing. But
But
only
I
time will
wish
tell, really.
I wish Google and Comixology wasn't so fucky today, because the artwork for his powers is really kind of horrifying.
It is. It is. It is the stuff of nightmares. Definitely check that out. Like I said, these books are 99 cents on Comixology or $1.50 in print. So that's one of the reasons that I was so kind of gung ho on reviewing Alterna. Even if you don't like any of the five titles that we go over today, which I have a hard time believing that anybody out there wouldn't like one of them at least. Um,
Yeah.
but you should definitely check out Alterna as a publisher just because they're bringing newsprint back. They're doing, great work bringing different titles in for everyone. And there's literally something for everyone at Alterna Comics. Multiple somethings for comic fans, but even if you're not like a hardcore comics fan, there is something geared towards you being published in Alterna. And after we get through these reviews, I'm going to go over the publishing schedule for June, so you guys can kind of keep up with that and maybe keep an eye out or add these to your pull list. But anyway, his friend kind of oozes into the room. It was very reminiscent of Ivan Ooze or Clayface, but very disjointed. His eyes, nose, and mouth were all like out of place. Um, it just, but he's learning to reconstitute himself. But he said that someone said that his brain got scrambled, staying too far away from his head or something. It's very strange, this whole sequence of events. Like I said, you're kind of transfixed on the
Yeah.
transformation more than anything. But anyway, they call them happy and unhappy accidents, not heroes or villains. But there's definitely something ominous about these government agents. But they pick Roger up, and he's flying in a helicopter, and he does tell tell these agents about his friend, and tell them that he's interested in becoming a part of it. But they kind of gloss over that, and they take him to Mag Magnificent. Blah. I can't say his name unless I'm reading it. It's really bad.
Me- me- me-
Yeah, it's so bad that you roboted trying to say it. Magnanimo.
Magnanimo.
There you go. But
All right.
he gets into Magnanimo's hideout, and he notices that all the furniture is like bolted to the walls and the ceiling and whatnot. And he's like, "Why is all this like this?" And he's like, "You hear in the distance that because flying is a gift. If you don't use it, you lose it." So that's kind of the tone of this whole book. It's very 1980s, early 90s comic book, just ridiculousness. And I really had a soft spot for it. But you immediately get the impression that Magnanimo wants nothing to do with this kid because he can't even hover to the top of the couch. But Magnanimo gets this phone call, and there's apparently an attack or something like that. And this is where the book ends with a to be continued, where he's going to drop the kid off with a babysitter and go fight crime. Essentially, that's where we're at. But you just get this sense that okay, I've had this kid dropped on me. I don't want this kid because why? What good is flying a foot and a half over anything? And I expect
Yeah.
big things to come out of this series. I expect Roger to eventually gain new powers because they allude to that. Or if he doesn't, I expect him to just show a true amount of heroism that makes him stand out because like I said, they set the stage for some pretty big things for this character.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I like this one as much as you did. I don't like it was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It didn't really grab me very much. Besides that whole sequence with Clay oozing in through his window.
Um,
Besides that bit, the rest of the book didn't really grab my attention as much.
well, that I kind of judge these comics based on their their standings as issue ones, and as an issue
Yeah.
one, it did a perfect job of establishing the main character, setting up the scenery, and basically giving you the first kind of antagonist, which isn't really an antagonist, but it is a situation to be overcome because this kid wants Magnanimo's approval. He wants to be this guy's sidekick, but this guy's like, your powers are useless. Maybe they'll manifest, maybe they won't, but he's being put here as a PR move essentially by these two agents. And the cover reveals that one of those agents is is more than likely a bad guy. The other one can read minds. The one with the longer mustache smoking the pipe on the cover here. The one that looks like Hitler is basically the boss. Because let's be frank, he's in a brown suit. He's got a mustache, and he's got a very well kept haircut. He kind of looks like Hitler a little bit.
Good point. I'll give you that.
I mean, on the cover, not in the actual book, which I could show you if Google wasn't such a pile of trash. But out of all these books, I'd say this was probably my number 4 out of 5. Not bad. Just not necessarily something I'm going to want to keep up with every week, especially with some of the other options here. But for a younger person, for a preteen, an adolescent, um, I think this would be something really fun and really enjoyable. So
Yeah.
now we'll move on to probably my favorite book out of these. Um, I'm gonna start on Unit 44 here. Um, this book, if you've ever seen Warehouse 13, I believe it is. Are you familiar with that show?
No.
This has a very Warehouse 13 vibe to it. Warehouse 13 is a show about a warehouse where you keep all of the supernatural talismans and artifacts and everything throughout history. Like they talk about Thomas Jefferson's kite being an electrically charged like super weapon or something. Uh, Edgar Allan Poe's pen has the ability to make tragedy happen based on what you write. It's very
Hmm.
strange, but it kind of gives me a vibe of that kind of feel because essentially we have two agents of Area 51 for the government, and apparently some of their equipment is being stored in a storage unit, like a I don't know what's a storage unit near you, like a storage unit name.
That's
Fucking
odd.
store and go. Everyone knows what a storage
Um,
unit is.
you, yeah, I don't think we need to give an example.
Okay, everyone knows what a storage unit is. Just one of those, just one of those units that you buy to put shit in. And some of them are temperature controlled, and some of them aren't. Definitely go for the temperature controlled ones.
Oh yeah.
I just couldn't think of one near me either. I wanted to
Oh,
say
there's so many of them, tons of different names.
I know. I just go somewhere looking for orange doors. I see a bunch of orange pull-up garage doors. I know I'm in the right place. But anyway, but as always, you got to have a little bit of a twist. So you find out that they haven't been paying on the storage unit for 8 months, and it's been put up for auction. So after after having been put up for auction, these two country bumpkins from Nevada which kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me, to be honest. Let's just put that out there. I didn't know that there were hillbillies in Nevada. I've never been to Nevada,
I
but
saw him more as just like white. I saw him more as just white trash. But
I mean, I guess that can be anywhere. Now,
yeah,
these guys buy the unit and discover all of this alien tech and everything. And well, Agent, what are their names here? Agent Hatch.
I'm looking for him.
I got it here. Agent Hatch and Agent
Okay.
Gibson. Agent Hatch is the dark haired bigger guy, and the blonde haired gentleman is Agent Gibson. They go to figure out where this storage unit has been purchased and who bought it, on the threat of Agent Gibson's
Well,
girlfriend and Agent Hatch's dog being shot.
well, first though, their boss tells Hatch that he'll kill his mother-in-law, and he's like, "Okay, I'm fine with it." And he says, "Like, all right, then I'll kill your dog." And he says, "You monster!"
You monster! Well, this is how John Wick starts. I don't know if you knew that. But yeah, Agent, or I don't know, what do they call him? Is it Agent? I don't think so. Yeah, Agent Ballard. He's their boss, and he's a bit of a hard ass. So, um, Hatch is in the car talking about he missed lunch, and he starts to get grumpy if he doesn't have lunch. So Gibson's like, "Do you want my lunch?" And it just cuts to a hilarious panel of Hatch having Gibson in a headlock, taking his lunch from him while they're in the car.
Well, yeah, somehow.
Yeah, I think exactly. Comics. So they, yeah, it's Nevada. So they go to Tonopah, Nevada, population under 2,500. So they eventually track down these two knuckleheads. I mean, this is a much faster read because once they
Yeah,
get to find where
I
the two
I do
guys.
want to point out
Go ahead.
they do play rock paper scissors to decide who gets to play the bad cop.
Right, and apparently who loses has to be the bad cop because that's the way it works out. Did you catch that? It's not a victory to be bad
Did I?
cop.
No.
Yeah, because Hatch threw scissors and Gibson threw rock.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, they track down the storage unit and the guys who bought it. Then they decide they need a disguise before they, get caught or whatever. So they go and buy some clothes, and Gibson actually fits in pretty well. He buys an entirely new ensemble, whereas Hatch just buys a pair of overall shorts to go over his suit. He's
See,
against being in disguise because he's been wearing the same suit every day for 10 years apparently. Or were you going to say something?
he's. Yeah, I thought they were normal sized overalls, and he's just so huge that they fit my shirts.
Well, he did break them, so got that
But
going for you.
yeah,
But in any event, they they track these guys down, and they get their. We're skipping a little bit, but they do go get some new clothes, and the guys uncover the alien stuff while they're en route to get some new clothes at the thrift will. That's fun. Um, but these guys, they're starting to ask for directions, and again, oh, they were regular sized overalls. I guess he's got them tucked into his boots, is what it is. That that's what it is. They're tucked into his boots. But yeah, Gibson has to cover for Hatch and explain that he's out of town. That's why he's such an idiot wearing his overalls over his suit. So pretty fantastic there. But the two rednecks, what are their names? Any chance you can find that real quick? It's on the page where they. Never mind. I'm almost there. Oh, one other thing we should point out. How about the guy on the wanted poster standing right beside the wanted poster?
Is it reading a newspaper?
Yeah, with a reward of $10 million. Chester Watkins and Ike Bartlett.
Yeah.
Those are the rednecks' names. I'm going to call them rednecks because I'm Southern and that's what I do. But Chester and Ike are unloading all this stuff, and they discover all the alien shit. And they say we're not co-signing this to the thrift store. We're selling this online. That's exactly how I read that too.
Not.
But yeah, they're going to be millionaires, and Ike is the smart one, and he's just like, look, if we put this stuff online, people are going to start looking for it. And he's like, nah, probably not. I mean, how are they going to find us? We're out in the middle of nowhere. And the right then there's a knock on the door, and Chester goes to open it, and he's like, I'm sure it's just Elizabeth Robin looking for her dog again. And then the agents are at the door, obviously, with a badge that says "Boo." So they both kind of grin as
I would request.
one more time. You're roboting pretty bad.
No.
Try now.
I said if I worked for Area 50. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I said if I worked for Area 51, I would request a badge that just said "Boo" as well. So.
Yes, absolutely. I don't hold that against you at all. But they both get this kind of grin on their face when the two yokels try and run, and Gibson's like, I'll take the big guy, and the little guy tries to ease out the window as well. Now that's one thing about comic books that I'd like to address. When someone jumps out of a window, they should be cut. I mean, you don't just jump through glass without getting cut.
I mean, it happens in TV too, so.
I don't
And
watch TV,
movies
so
and-
I don't. I said movies and comic books, but yeah. So he's Hatch is just like, well, I'm gonna see what kind of escape attempt Houdini over here has, talking about the slender fellow Chester, and Chester runs off and separates from Ike and runs straight into Hatch's fist. Because
and one of his 7 teeth go flying.
That's right. There are 2 rules of the chase, apparently. One, stay limber, and followed closely by rule number 2, work smarter, not harder. Which is why you wait right around the corner and just let the other guy run into your fist. So, Ike eventually pulls a gun on Agent Gibson, and Agent Gibson pulls a Dr. Octopus style gun with a robotic hand with a flamethrower on the tip, it appears.
And one that has a gun that just says "bang."
Yeah, the
with
Joker
a flag
gun
coming out of it.
Right. Yes.
Now where are those apparatuses coming out of? I cannot tell.
Crotch. They're all coming out of his crotch.
Okay.
Yeah. Go gadget
Yeah.
penis.
Yeah. I wasn't 100% sure. I was like, wait, are they coming out of his hair?
No.
Because that would be equally as ridiculous.
It looks like it's his belt buckle. To be fair.
So go gadget penis.
Yes, go gadget penis, absolutely. But by the time the chase is over, they get back to the garage, and they're like, everything's gonna be fine as long as we can just recover the government stuff. Not gonna be a big deal. And then they get back over to the garage, and it's all gone. and we have no idea what's happened to it, and that's where we get the to be continued. So this one definitely made me want to read the rest of it. It's part one in a four-part issue limited series, and some of these books are already way well of the ways underway. I just wanted to start with issue ones because moving into an issue two or three or whatever is not going to really give you an idea of what the story's like. It's just going to give you an idea that you missed everything in the story. So, what would you like to
Yeah.
look at next? Midnight Mystery or Blood Realm?
Huh.
I'll go ahead and get it queued up
So
while we
both,
finish up the talk on this one.
yeah, they're both pretty good. I don't know. Let's do Blood Realm.
Okay. Well, Unit 44, like I said, this is probably the most fun title that we read. Um, this is
Yeah, as
definitely
far as just like just kind of zany, fun, super goofy.
right. It's not necessarily, in my opinion, for small children, 8 and under or anything like that, but 10, 11, maybe teen or whatever, but
Yeah.
older adolescent teenagers are up. Like I said, two grown men enjoyed this book, and this is definitely something that I'm either going to pick up the trade for or go and dig up all four issues of. So, because I really want to know about this alien technology, I think it's a MacGuffin. That's what I want to believe. I want to believe that this is just a story about these two agents and their attempt to get this technology back. And I don't think the technology is ever going to come into play. But I hope I'm wrong. But I think it would be funny if that were the case. I think it would be
That
funny.
that's what it seems like it's going to be, and I'm also very very curious about it.
Like I'm fine if it is. Like that takes nothing away from the story. Let me pull up the artist and writer in this one. I think I forgot to do that. What the hell? It just has Wes Loker and Ed Jimenez on the cover, so I'm thinking that might be the writer author team. Let me look it up. I guess pull up a tab and make my internet die even further. Unit 44
All those
comic.
tabs.
Look at all those tabs. Oh, come on. Come on, guy. Do better. Hell? Oh, my lord. Why is everything dying today? I promise I'm looking for it here, but comics. I'm gonna look at a young adult. See what we get. I'm guessing that's what this is. Yep, yep, young adult. Haha, I was correct. Um,
Wes Locker is the writer.
how did you find that? What website are you on?
Unit44comic.com.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. I avoid those websites like the plague. I don't ever believe they're actually real.
Well,
It's not even a secure website, man. Come on.
let's see.
It does have a
He,
creators tab, yeah. Yeah, Wes
yep.
Locker is the writer of the comic book Alterna and 2015, The Undoubtables and Chambers. And Eduardo Ed Jimenez is a digital artist behind Unit 44, Backfired, and Evolution. Follow him on Twitter and Wes Loker on Twitter. So there you go. Unit44comic.com if you guys want to look into that. You can also look at it on Alterna. or comicsology if you hate yourself. Um, but all in all, I think this was my top favorite book of the evening. Followed very closely by what will probably be the last book we look at tonight, but not get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I put this one at number 2, but
Okay. Well, now we've got Blood Realm, which is number one in a 3-issue limited miniseries. Blood Realm Shadowed Kingdom Part 1. Uh, Robert Geronimo is credited on the cover here. This one had the most unique art style, I think.
yes.
So, let me go ahead and get it pulled up here. Like again, I'm sorry, guys. Usually, I am able to have this stuff ready to go, but unfortunately, Google decided we shouldn't have these things ready to go, so you're stuck with just the covers. However, this is one of these books that the cover and the interior art actually match a good bit. There's obviously more detailed art in the interiors, but that's the kind of style you can look for. So, Blood Realm is volume 2. So I did not read Blood Realm volume 1, but it appears that this is a high fantasy title with a lot of blood and gore kind of scattered in. Very stylized art. I don't know. I mean, the top credits and the first page say, during General Gorn's quest for the Black Heart, a team of Satyrian warriors are sent on a treacherous mission across the lands of Morden to the Hollow Fortress. There they must uncover the whereabouts of the missing Satyrian battalion and a secret terrifying more than their darkest nightmares. So you open up with these guys already on the boat. It seems to be narrated by a mage.
Which I enjoyed that.
Right. The mage's name is Olak. General Gorn personally selected 3 warriors: Lokrin, Straga, and the Ember Mage Olek. So the backstory is that apparently the Iron Wolves, a clan of humans, drove out the Ember Mages from power, and the Satyrian warriors, led by General Gorn, have set out to basically take down the Iron Wolves. Excuse me. Um, Now, do you what do you think of this book? Like, what were what parts of it were your favorites, your least favorites? What?
So I really really like the narration style storytelling,
Right,
but only because of the more minimalistic art style.
right,
Like if this was something like a Marvel or DC where there's tons of big lavish backgrounds and lots of colors and stuff,
yeah.
that the narration just gets a little too crowded. But this minimalistic art style lends
And
itself very nicely.
and the big full page panels, I love that.
Yes. The-
I know I was crapping on Killer Groove last night before we realized that it was almost like a music pattern thing. But I love full page art. Just
yeah, there's
big.
quite a bit of it in this book.
There are. This isn't a very panelistic. This isn't as much sequential storytelling as it is. It almost feels like reading a D&D campaign. Does that make sense?
No, because I've never actually played D&D. I've always wanted to, but I
All
never
right.
actually
Well,
have.
Becky, if you're listening, Ayrton, you're fired. But no, D&D. it feels like the opening to a campaign. Like it feels like the backstory to a campaign. You find out that this Ember Mage has set out with General Gorn and two other warriors, and they're sailing to the Hollowed Fortress. Takes them about 3 days to get there over the Black Sea. It's very detailed. It's very almost Tolkienish in its storytelling. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
detail about traveling and the I don't know the setting. It takes a lot of time developing the setting and the mood to the story.
World building.
Right. Um, but eventually they make it to the haunted fortress, but they find nothing
The
but
hollow
hollow fortress. Yes. But they
the
find
hollow
nothing but
fortress.
a pile of corpses once they make it inside, topped by a giant demon creature. And this demon creature moves to attack the Ember Mage and is stopped by General Gorn. And is it General Gorn? I believe so. Captain.
I think that's his name.
So, and the captain
The,
steeled his nerves, masking his terror with words that cracked like thunder. Face me, wretched creature. Um, and then you find out that this creature is a Satyrian that's been transformed. And he explains that once they took the Hollow Fortress from the humans, that they were corrupted by a pit of evil, like a pit with emanating evil magic from it. And just before the party travels down into the pit, it ends up with a map and a brief explanation of the history of the lands of Mordred. So, if you like Lord of the Rings high fantasy style, uh, if you like Lord of the Rings high fantasy style, like, oh my god, hold on one second, go ahead and I'll be right back.
yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out is and again, I wish we could show you some of these, but the entire book, the only coloring you have is red, black, and white. And Robert Geronimo, I believe that's what his name was, something like that, brilliantly uses the different combinations of these colors for all the shading and texture through this entire book, and it's just amazing.
Oh, you're talking about the three color palette?
Yeah.
Yeah, black, white, and red pretty much through the entire thing. I don't know that they use any other color in this book.
No, they and yeah, it's fantastic the way he does it.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I guess, it's what I call a like a stucco printing because it has that vintage texture. It almost looks like a galaxy of stars in some of the blacks and the reds.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's what they use to shade with that and hatchwork. So I mean, it's all fantastic. This is probably my favorite artistically in the book.
I
Like
will give you that.
the five that we read because it's so unique. It's not that it's the best art I've ever
Yeah,
seen in my life, but it's so unique and it's so stylistic. Like if I saw something else that this artist did in this style, I would immediately recognize it as his work. It's kind of like an Alex
right,
Ross. It's like an Alex Ross cover. Like nobody comes close. Like you can do fancy, realistic digital art, but you can't do Alex Ross.
right.
So, but yeah, the color scheme, the layout of it, the narrative storytelling. This is probably my number two. Um, because while I like the last book that we're gonna look over, I actually like the next book we're gonna look over as well. But this issue, because this is right up my alley with what kind of comic books that I like and what kind of fiction that I like. This made me want to go out and read the first volume of Blood Realm as well. So again, so far, all three of these books that we've looked at have been successful issue ones for what they were.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the bigger challenges you get. But that just kind of goes to talk to the quality of Alterna comics. Like at no point have we had an emotional back and forth between two female characters talking about how they're fine because they're women and they don't need no strong man. And that's this is all quality writing, all quality art. Everything is stylistically individual to the creators, but at the same time, we've read three different comics from this publisher, and none of them feel like the other ones. And I think that's a good thing. Um, people get so tuned into the idea that all Marvel comics or all DC comics kind of look alike and go together, but that's not what comics are just about. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
there's more to it than that.
right. I mean, back in the day, you used to have Western comics coming out beside romance comics, coming out beside war comics, coming out beside superhero comics. And you might not have had the same person that bought all four, but somebody was buying all four. Somebody was buying each of the four.
Yeah.
So, but all in all, this is, I mean, this is almost my number one book. If Unit 44 wasn't so much damn fun, this would be my favorite book. But this is the book that I would want to go back and read volume one of, and hope that this guy continues writing this book until I die. Because if you've got this massive, because there's a map in the back of this book that shows you like part of the Black Sea that they're traversing, and then
Yeah.
there's a little kind of annotation in the back that gives you a little bit of the backstory of the war. Um, I want all of this, and I want more than all of it now, and I want it to continue to come out every week for the rest of existence, especially at $1.50 price point, or $1 on Comixology or whatever. Like I want all of this,
Yeah.
but that's just me. Now, do we want to do Wicked and Righteous or Midnight Mystery next? Because I know which one is your favorite. So,
Yeah.
you want to do your favorite, or do you want to do your least favorite next?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, let's do Midnight Mystery next then.
All right.
We'll do my favorite one.
All right. Well, um, Midnight Mystery. Since this is your favorite, I'm gonna let you kind of go off on it.
All right. Also, Wes Loker.
Yeah, West
Uh,
Loker. Let me see. Let's see if they.
and
That's one
Bernie
thing.
Gonzalez.
Yeah, that's one thing about the formatting of these books that I do have a slight issue. Can you hear me? Am I
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I've got a mute button on my microphone, and I just occasionally hit it when I'm not talking, so that if I'm wrestling around in the background, it's not picking up. Or if one of my children decides to come scream at me, nobody has to hear it.
Right.
But yeah, they just one thing, and I get that it's a money saver as far as what Marvel does, but I like to have the credits for the artist and the writer on the first page when you open the cover. Not on the cover, because when I see a name on a cover, I assume that that's the person that did the cover.
Right.
But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So our little opening blurb is: follow the strange adventures of Detective Ezekiel Zeke King as he goes from case to horrifying case. In this issue, King's latest case goes from freaky to fatal when he's hired to find the lost son of a deceased horror host. Alterna Comics presents Midnight Mystery.
We was Kangs and
And
shit.
and it It opens with him talking into an old reel to reel tape recorder, saying how what if ghosts were real, that would prove there's an afterlife, but is it heaven or hell? Does that mean God's real, the devil? It would impact religions, atheists, and he kind of waxes on a little bit. If ghosts are real, why not aliens? Would it be a stretch to have werewolves and vampires? He kind of goes on like this for a while, and it kind of
It's
the
it's
reason,
it sets the tone for what he is. He's a supernatural PI basically. He's a
yeah,
private investigator that's not afraid to ask questions that involve ghost, alien, monsters, things that go bump in the night, or just normal PI stuff.
yeah,
But he says recording these tapes helps him get through the misconceptions, and that's what it's all about. It's finding the truth, not accepting a fallacy of what you've been told to explain things that can't be explained.
yeah, and it's I don't know. It reminds me of like the old like drama radio shows from like the 40s
Yes,
that I used to listen to as a kid.
yeah,
And
very very similar to like the Shadow, or you know Journey to not Journey to the Center of the Earth. What's the one? God damn. I used to listen to a lot of these things, but I was always obviously like the Shadow, Blue Beetle, um,
yeah,
the Batman
I don't
radio
know.
show.
There's so many of them. Uh,
On Android, I believe it's still there. There's an app called the Old Time Radio Player that has a lot of that stuff on demand that you can like stream.
yeah, there's a website. It's
Yep.
archive.org or something like that. And they have all that stuff. All the old Abbott and Costello radio shows, which are hilarious.
Yeah. Back when you could make
Yeah,
jokes.
right.
But this is it kind of sets a tone. Right on the cover, you see the supernatural suspense like banner at the bottom, the little word blurb.
Yeah,
But this sets the tone for like a very noir type story. Um, you don't get a lot of direct dialogue to this guy. You get a lot of his internal thought process at the beginning, and then when it's just him, like he's not just talking to talk. He All of his internal dialogue is depicted in word bubbles. But essentially, we'll go ahead and get into the actual case that he's researching. That's your cue.
oh, you cut out for a second.
Oh, I said go ahead and get into the actual case that he's discussing.
Oh, yeah. So he pulls up to this big mansion, and uh, he is greeted by a man named Jasper Jennings, who leads him into the study and passes several like movie posters for one's called The Hangman's Daughter and The
Yeah,
Creeping Hand.
all B movie roles and whatnot. Obviously,
Yeah.
I think the guy even comments. I think King even comments scary stuff, scary bad.
Which are my favorite movies. But uh, so the butler guy goes on to explain how he's worked for this man named Roland Blackwood for many years, and that he used to host, I guess, what would be the equivalent of like a public access TV show.
It made me think of
It's,
like Tales of the Crypt.
yeah, but when he said I don't know where's the line. I don't know. One of the lines that one of them says is, I don't know. It came across as he wasn't like a huge deal, so it was more of like he was more of like a local celebrity to the area. But
Let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. No one sets out to introduce low budget movies after the evening news, but every actor is the lead in their own corner of the world. So Mr. Blackwood created a new persona in Count Karloff, a sophisticated and spooky guide in the fictional worlds of science and suspense. So essentially, he became the crypt keeper for, the introduction to bad horror movies.
yeah, and his introductions are great. Good evening, ladies, gents, creeps, and critters. I ask you, can anyone escape the ghoulish grip of the horrific hand? Scream Queen Mindy Masters stars in The Creeping Hand on the next eerie episode of Midnight Theater.
That's another trope that I love in comic books when characters have alliterative names.
Yes.
Um, I mean, I know that just kind of makes me a wanker in that regard, but I absolutely love when characters have alliterative names. J. Jonah Jameson, Clark Kent, Betty Boop, um, Peter Parker. I mean, Miles
Reed
Morales,
Richards,
Reed Richards.
Susan Storm,
Uh huh. I mean,
Guy Gardner.
yeah. I mean, we could go on for days, but
Oh, yeah.
alliterative names like and so far we've seen like three or four in this book already, and then there's another one to come. But essentially, the Jasper Jennings character is the housekeeper slash butler type, and he's been watching over this mansion since Count Karlov, quote unquote, died. Uh, he contacts Zeke King, to find Karlov's lost son because apparently the estate's been left to this kid. So the PI sets out and does what PIs do. He goes and finds the kid. Um, it takes him a little while. He uncovers the fact that Karloff was a bit of a man whore, and was never lacked for company. But everything seems to kind of be going on the nose, and it just seems like it seems like it's almost like a feel good ending to what could be and this is again, I don't think we mentioned this, but it's a 4-part limited series. So
Oh, yeah.
a lot of these books, and that's one thing about Alterna that I absolutely love. In Marvel or DC, you don't always get a clear cut, statement of, well, this is a 1 in 6 or a 1 in 12 or whatever. Even with Secret Wars 2015, it was supposed to be an 8-issue limited series, and then they had to extend it to 9 issues. Um, Now, I'm not saying that's never happened in Alterna before, because I think I actually have issues 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 5, 4 of 5, and 5 of 5 of the same series from last year's Alterna. But um, they do put right there above the title head how long the series is going to run, and that's something that I think that like Alterna is doing so much for the consumer without being a complete indie movement. Like some of their books do go up on Kickstarter, some of them do go up on Indiegogo, that kind of thing. But just as a publisher, Alterna has such a format that is designed for the fans, for the comic reader, not for Diamond, not for the shop. And it wouldn't be bad if it was for the shop, but using newsprint to reduce the cost of a comic book back to $1.50. I mean, that's huge. I when I worked at the comic shop in a more you know a broader capacity during the last ownership of it, that's when Alterna kind of popped up on the scene with newsprint. And from the moment they said they were printing newsprint, I was ordering at least 5 issues of every Alterna comic to that store. Just because you could order about 5 issues of an Alterna comic for what you could order 1 or 2 issues of something else for.
Yeah.
And it was worth it because you can sell 2 or 3 comic books to a kid, or you can sell 2 or 3 comic books to a parent for a kid or for a young adult, as opposed to a pack of cards. But you can't sell 1 comic book as opposed to a pack of cards. But
Right.
I mean, I know that's gonna be that's gonna be my equivalent to Ralph bringing up the fact that he went to jail on the Ralph retort, isn't it?
That you worked at a comic, or you work at a comic book store.
Yeah. Is that gonna be is that gonna be the middle card on the middle square on the bingo card?
Probably.
Figures. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. But no, we find the kid after some searching and some finding out some of the deep lore on Count Karlov, and
Which I love the page of just the 6 different people giving him different information about him.
yeah, let me pull those up. Looks like yeah, here it is. Uh, it seems like it's half and half. You know, uh, camera operator, small show, people loved him. I was rolling agent for 2 years. That was 2 years too many. You don't say, well, that's the man no one will miss. I did his makeup. He was a real professional. Lonely too. Let's just say he was never lacking for company, if you know what I mean. Like, nobody knew him.
Yeah.
But apparently there is a redhead that was very special. And I believe that was Mindy Masters, is who they were referring to. But I'm not entirely sure. But Zeke is going over some of his old films and eventually runs across a birth certificate. And they track down Conrad Crane, a football player for college. And at this point you start to feel like, oh well, this is this is where it's wrapping up. This kid's gonna find out that he has a mansion and all that good stuff, and that his dad died and he never knew him, and that's gonna be kind of the end of it.
Yeah.
But right after this, right after he explains and sets a meeting time, um, we're introduced to another character that we're not actually given his name. Gus.
No.
Gus. Yeah, we are. What if I'm wrong? Gus.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
uh, but we're introduced to another character, and we find out that Zeke is being watched by somebody in a car.
Well, one thing I have to point out.
Yeah.
Where he first shows up, where Gus is at, and they're at a food truck or coffee truck, whatever.
Hot dog cart or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he says 2 specials with all the trimmings. He's good for it.
Yeah.
Which is a total like, drunk poor PI move.
Oh, absolutely.
From back in those crime noir movies and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that was even like the Crow type. I mean that was even as the movie The Crow.
Yeah.
And I think that even happened there, but you had that kind of like the hot dog cart is a trope in these stories. Like if you don't have a hot dog cart, what the fuck are you gonna eat? But
Exactly.
yeah, the kid eventually makes his way to the greenhouse on the property of the mansion and is introduced to Jasper Jensen. And that's when things start to take kind of a little bit of a turn because as soon as the kid's like, Jasper, right, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but this whole thing is bonkers. I'm not really sure what you want from me. You say I'm the son of a dead and buried actor. Fair enough, he's 6 feet under, so what's your angle? And that's when you find out that Karlov's head is still there. And Zeke's like, all right, let's just start backing up to the nearest exit. And then Jensen produced a gas mask out of nowhere and puts both Zeke and Conrad Crane, the kid, to sleep. And that's pretty much where it ends up. Also, story art: Bernie Gonzalez, letters: Wes Loker. Last page.
Yeah.
I want it on the first page, damn it. So, but yeah, fantastic book. I want to read more of it. Um, like I said, the only two of these books that I just wasn't sucked into was Actual Roger and the last book that we're going to cover, Wicked and Righteous Exodus. But this is definitely in the top three. I would say it
Yeah.
would be Unit 44, Blood Realm, and then Midnight Mystery. But I love the crime genre. So go ahead. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
Yeah. No, just something about this one, that old time crime noir PI story. I just can't get enough of those kind of stories, and this one uh, just sucked me in right away and was definitely my favorite, followed by Unit 44 and then Blood Realm.
Right.
But
Well, like I said, out of
yeah,
out of these five, I'm definitely going to be looking into those three. But I did want to cover a spread big enough that anybody who comes across this video later on might be able to go out to Alterna and find something that they enjoy, because they're not they're not, I don't know, what is it, in the box, so to speak. Like, it's not a set style or a set world or anything like that. Like, there's literally something for everyone at this publisher,
right.
and I think that was pretty well described by doing these titles specifically. Um, that pretty much just leaves the last book, the Wicked Righteous Exodus. I believe is part two of the Wicked Righteous, but it is number one in a 6-issue limited series, and you're introduced to a cast of kids, so to speak. But the creators credited on the front are Terry Mayo, Lucas Romero, and Brandon DeStefano. And this seems it's very anime-ish. It was the first thing that I took away from this. Like, it reminds me of a very anime art style. But this has got to be a teen plus book, or maybe even a mature book, because there
Yeah.
is there is some foul language, some disemboweling, that kind of thing. But this is apparently set in a post apocalyptic Earth. Um, shit just gone down. We don't know how shit went down, but it's gone down, and somehow these characters on the cover here have basically been on a boat, and they have to go to the mainland for supplies to repair that boat before they sink. And that's kind of where we open up, where we're given a little interlude there. Uh, Come on, don't crash, Comixology. Don't be a piece of crap.
Hey, this one has the credits right in the front cover.
Right, right, and that's a formatting choice that I would make on everything. But Terry Mayo is the writer creator. Lucas Romero is penciler, inker, and colorist. Christopher Hall is secondary colorist, and Brandon DeStefano is a letterer. So you open up with a man digging his own grave, basically, and sending his kid into a van to get away from whatever's coming, and telling
It
him
looks
that,
like some sort of disease.
yeah, telling him that he's going to be a leader, and that there is no fear in love. And then you flash forward to 2 years later, and there's a big smoke plume coming off of this air carrier where all these kids are. Um, Two characters named Johnny and Mark are woken up, and there's a meeting talking about how they have to go get supplies from the mainland. There's a little brother and a love interest going on. So you're introduced to let's see, who is it? Lucas and JC, as well as Johnny. Now this is probably my least favorite of the books, but not because it's bad. It just isn't my cup of tea. Um,
Yeah, it
it
was.
and again, I believe it's volume two of The Wicked Righteous. So my opinion may change if I ever read The Wicked Righteous number one, but unfortunately, this book does not make me want to read The Wicked Righteous number one. It's interesting, and there are some interesting parts about it. There are definitely questions I want answered, but if I just had to pick three of these books, this would definitely not be among
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little disjointed, maybe because it is a second volume. Maybe some of the stuff in it would be more clear reading that, but I was definitely lost through the good like middle portion of this book.
Well, I think it's safe to say that if you're still a fan of The Walking Dead after all of everything that you've been put through as a fan, first off, I'm sorry. Second off, this is probably right up your alley because it's very similar. Although it is oriented around young adults and not, older grown people. But the crux of it is in issue one. The carrier they're on needs repair. So the large gentleman, um, the Sandy Beige 40,
Cross.
yeah, the Sandy Beige 42 gentleman on the cover here, Cross, is going landside to gather supplies from what have been referred to as the Chan-Ams, the Chinese Americans that apparently are at war with everyone for some reason. I don't know. Again, I think you really should read the first volume of The Wicked and the Righteous before you jump into this. The art is amazing in it. Um, Probably the most cohesive art of the entire book, like of the entire review. Uh, but it just is so everywhere. Like there's so much happening in these 30 pages, 29 pages.
Yeah, not even.
There's just so much happening and so many characters being introduced that it's just kind of hard to keep straight. But, all in all, basically, there's a coup on the carrier while some people are off ship. And then basically, the only people that we know are okay are Cross and the kids that are on the cover. Everybody else is either dead or captured. So I mean, there's really no way to kind of give a synopsis of this book without just giving everything away and trying to explain things that we don't know because we haven't read the first volume. That's
Yeah,
really what takes points away from this book because out of the other four, they were all fantastic number ones. This number one doesn't tell me anything about why any of this is happening. And I'm assuming that because it's laying its hat down on the idea that who's ever buying it has already read The Wicked Righteous Volume 1. Let me make sure that's actually a thing before I just sound like an idiot. Which, again, is nothing new.
yeah.
But
Well, even just looking at the cover, you have no indication. Oh, I guess it does say volume two, like up in the corner.
does it?
Yeah,
It says Exodus. I didn't see the Volume 2.
it's it's underneath the one,
Oh,
the issue one. It says volume two just underneath that.
Okay. Yeah, I did not look that closely at the cover. It does say volume two. Okay. Um.
Yeah, apparently I didn't either until just now.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, this is volume two. This is one of those volume twos that you're going to need to read volume one on. So, like I said, for me, if I had to suggest any of these for readers who were anything like me, I would say it would definitely be Unit 44, Blood Realm, and then Midnight Mystery are all must reads. Actual Roger is definitely something you can pick up for the younger person in your family. Um,
Yeah, that's good for a younger reader.
but I mean, all in all, there's not a bad book in this bunch. Like I said, I can't even pass judgment on Wicked Righteous, even though I didn't understand anything that was happening in it. I just didn't have time to go back through volume one to kind of get a grip on it, and that's my fault as a host. It was just kind of a last minute changeover. But like I say, again, I there's not a bad book in the bunch. I think that if I had to pick a worst of the five, I would say The Wicked and the Righteous, just because as an issue one, it doesn't explain everything that I feel like it should. But
Yeah,
you're also not left really scratching your head as it happens. It's just everything's happening so fast, and you don't know why it's happening exactly. You know what's happening. It's clear that's what's going on. It's not like some other books where it's just like, oh, well, things are happening, and I don't know how that happened, but you don't know why.
yeah,
It just
yeah.
to
You don't even really have a clue as to why.
Right, and I think that's the big crux of it is you need the why. But again, um, not a bad book in the bunch, and I felt that way about Alterna for a while because I've read some of their earlier titles like Lilith Dark and Adam Wreck, and those were E for Everyone titles. I've read Croak and the Chair. Those were mature titles. I've read a little bit of everything they've ever put out, and I bought Alterna titles for my kids to read to them. It just, I mean, it's good stuff. It's at a decent price point. Peter Samedi, I apologize for butchering your name, but he's on Twitter and he's a fantastic follow on Twitter. But he really cares about the comic book industry, and he brought newsprint back. And I hope many people take a cue from him and start printing newsprint comics. I mean, Marvel has been doing True Believers, but the stuff that they reprint isn't necessarily enticing to a new audience, and I think that's a questionable choice there. Because as a collector, I mean, yeah, I'll buy them just to reread them,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I just bought a reprint this week.
as a new comic book reader walking into a store, what is a reprint of Spider-Man the last time or Craven's last time?
Yeah,
But overall, what were your thoughts on the books this week?
yeah, about the same. Like said, I don't think the actual Roger and God, I keep forgetting the
Wicked
name of this
Righteous.
last one. Wicked Righteous. Thank you. They're not bad. They just didn't grab my attention. The stories weren't compelling enough to me to want to keep reading them. But I definitely want to finish Midnight Mystery in Unit 44. Uh, Blood Realm was good. Uh, I really liked it, just not necessarily my sort of thing.
Right. Like I said,
I mean,
it's more high fantasy and horror than anything else, and those are both right up
yeah,
my alley.
yeah, but Unit 44 and Midnight Mystery, I'm definitely gonna finish those stories out because those were fantastic.
All right. Well, that's about all I've got to say as far as that goes. I know we've still got a few minutes to go to wrap up the 12, but with the fact that we made it this far is amazing. But
Yeah, I
um,
was not expecting that.
you know, I just like I said, I really like these books. I like what Alterna is doing. I do want to pull up their June publishing schedule just for anybody who's listening on the replay or who's listening now. They have on their website they have a checklist for 2019 and their release dates. And they've got everything mapped out as far as going all the way to December. But in June, Midnight Mystery Volume 2 starts. So Midnight Mystery is apparently already done. So you can pick
Okay.
up that. You can pick up all four of those. I believe you can actually order them from the Alterna website. You can probably DM Peter Samedi if you can.
Okay.
Scrimshaw Volume 2, Number 3 comes out in June. It came out on a Wednesday. Number 7 is due out in June. Uh, Exilum, Number 6 of 6 is due out in June. Mighty Mascot, Number 2 of 3 is due out in June. And ICYMI, which I looked up right before the show. Uh, I can see you missed it, I believe.
I think that's what you said.
Uh, yeah, I can see you. Fucking internet slang. Internet slang is the devil. Yeah, in case you missed it.
If, in case you missed it.
Yeah, in case you missed it, number
Whatever.
6, uh, or I'll do out in June. Mr. Crypt and Baron Rat, 1 of 3, is due out in July. Unit 44 will complete in July, so you got about a month to catch up on that. Wicked and Righteous Exodus, number 3 of 6, is out in July. The Actual Roger, 4 of 5. I Can See You Missed It, number 7. And Blood Realm Volume 2 will complete up in July. So that's the next 2 months of publishing for Alterna, at least on their checklist. They're doing new titles and new releases. They're constantly announcing those. They're constantly at shows. So if you have any chance to show these guys some support, you should definitely do so and check them out. More than worth it. Like I said, I've not been disappointed, and for a creator to show this much love and care and just finesse with the comic industry in the shape of it is right now, I look for Alterna to be a major player in the landscape of comics going forward.
Yeah, and I didn't know that they were doing it on newsprint.
Yeah,
Which is fantastic. I love. I don't know something about newsprint.
it honest to God smells like old comics when you buy one. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's it's great.
Um, and like I said, it's something you can definitely see a kid buying $1.50 comic book. It reminds
Oh
me
yeah,
of being that age again. That 10-year-old just got my allowance. I'm gonna go buy a comic book and a movie ticket and a candy bar and a soda with my
right.
$5. You know, but nowadays it's just $5 for the newest Marvel book, $4 for the newest DC book, and it's exhausting.
Oh yeah,
With Comicsgate coming out and you having $20 and $30 price points for full trade volumes and double issues, it's fantastic that some people are able to support all of that, but the average Joe isn't going to be able to put $40 down on every comic book that comes out to support that movement. So,
right,
the fact that we have a publisher out here who is putting out good stories, is putting out individual, just indie stories on a publisher house because all of these have different creators and they don't share a universe. it has a very Image feel, and I think that Image kind of lost sight of the game, and that Alterna picked that ball up and kept running towards the end zone. And I'd love to see them make that touchdown. To
Although
throw a sports ball reference in there.
Although a crossover between Blood Realm and Unit 44 could be amusing.
As long as the art style didn't change for any of the characters.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think I think that what they're doing right now is fantastic, and I think it's really good that they do a lot of these limited series instead of trying to tell a continuous story with these characters when the idea is just not fleshed out yet.
Yeah.
Because that's how you end up with all these exposition driven comic books. That's how you end up with all these really horribly written and drawn comic books because of deadlines and because
Right.
of the ongoing story format. It goes back to what I was saying. Like, if you're going to tell a story, tell a story. There's nothing wrong with telling a 3-part story in comic book form. Blood Realm doing it right now. Feast or Famine is doing it right now. Mighty Mascots, a 3-issue series. And, I think that this is the format that we're going to see a lot more of going forward. I think people are going to see this and see the success of Alterna. I could be wrong, but I think that Alterna is going to keep growing and they're going to be a major player. And I think people are going to see their success and they're going to try and ape that style.
Hopefully.
But I mean, unless you've got anything else to add, I think that pretty much wraps it up for me.
No, definitely go check out Alterna and these stories, or even some of their other ones that we didn't talk about.
Absolutely.
Definitely support these guys. I think they're doing good stuff, and if we go out and support them, they're, as opposed to the big three, or however you want to put it.
Well,
then
think about it like this:
it's voting with your dollar.
You can buy 2 Alterna comics for the same price. Well, actually, for $1 cheaper than you can buy 1 Marvel comic.
Right.
I mean, it's really a no-brainer at that point. Support the industry that's not trying to shove. I don't know if you noticed or not, but there wasn't a single piece of political overtone in any of these books.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So. But anyway, without further ado, I guess I'll go ahead and get that outro spun up. Ayrton, again, thank you as always, sir.
Thank you.
I will jump back on the call when I end the stream. Give me 1 minute.
All right. See you in a minute.
All right, buddy. Have a good one. All right, it's just me, folks. Thank you for stopping by and giving this a look. Like I said, I know that YouTube's been weird as hell today, so if you kept this on the replay, I definitely appreciate it. Like and subscribe, all that nonsense. But I'm gonna go ahead and hit the outro and get the hell out of here. So hope you all have a fantastic week coming up, and I will see you again next weekend.
How much responsibility do you feel that you have, particularly guys the alt-right, who, as you say, some of them have enjoyed your work, and say,
No,
I'm not one of you guys. I'm not with you.
They haven't enjoyed my work.
I've definitely read bits on the internet.
Read more. Read more. Read more.
You've sold 2 million copies of 12 Rules for Life. You have 800,000 followers on Twitter, 1.4 million followers on YouTube. What is it that you're selling that so many people want to buy?
I don't think I'm selling anything. Selling anything. I don't think I'm selling anything. selling anything. Selling anything. I don't think I'm selling anything. Selling anything.
So people are willing to pay a lot of money to see you speak. You know, what is it that you think that people are hungry for? They want to hear from you.
They're hungry for a discussion of the relationship between responsibility and meaning. Responsibility and meaning. Responsibility and meaning. The relationship between responsibility and meaning. We haven't had that discussion in our culture for 50 years. 50 years. We've concentrated on rights and privileges and freedom and impulsive pleasure. Those are all useful in their place, but they're shallow, and that's not good. Because they're shallow. If people are moored shallowly, then storms wreck them, and storms come along. So I'm talking to people about how they can build a foundation underneath, and that works. Storms come along. So